So we are working on the hatchling block, and that's located, if I can get my hand gestures right, is it, if I point that way, it's away. So it is right there. I can actually use this finger. It's right here. So let's back up and talk a little bit. So hello, my name is Jennifer Hale, affectionately known as Dr. Jen, and we are doing the Jolly Bar 5, that's book 5, Quilt Along, that is sponsored by the Fat Quarter Shop. And this is the book here. So this is the Jolly Bar book. This is volume 5. And this book actually has blocks in it that you can use to create quilts. So it's the same block over and over and over and over again. You make it kind of scrappy and it creates a quilt. So what we're doing is taking 10 of those blocks and we are creating a sampler quilt. That means that each block will be represented at least once. There are a couple blocks that we are going to represent 4 times. So the goal is to have all those blocks represented. But the great thing about this book is that you can use the book, and if there is a favorite block that you have, you can take that block and create a whole quilt, or you can take blocks and create a whole quilt. So that's totally up to you which way you want to go. So hello everyone. We are doing the Jolly Bar book. So my plan is for this quilt along information, or I have posted on my page. It starts, we're supposed to post by August the 13th. So the first block is supposed to be done. This is a slow sew along or quilt along. And what I mean by that is that it's going to take us from now until December to finish it. And it's not because it's a hard thing to do. It's just because we're doing a block every other week, or in some cases 4 blocks, but we're only doing them every other week. And today is a really easy block. So this is the book. Again, the link is in my bio. If you're interested in getting the book, there are fabric selections. They use what is called a Jolly Bar, and the Jolly Bar is exclusive to Fat Quarter Shop. Now, ask me if I have a Jolly Bar. I don't think I cut both of them. Okay, so this is the Jolly Bar, and here it is. You can see the cuts. And so this, what I'm using is called Denim and Daisies. And the Jolly Bar is exclusive to Fat Quarter Shop. The Jolly Bar is a 10 by 5 inch rectangle. And so you could get these Jolly Bars from the Fat Quarter Shop. To make this, you could use your scraps. It's totally up to you. So I will be using Denim and Daisies. And we're gonna get started. So I'll set my book aside. In order to get started, there were certain things that we needed. Each week I will post a project sheet. So you see that here. And it will tell you how many of each block you need. So you need so many of A, so many of B, so many of C. This is just to make the one block, which is good because the pattern says how much you need to make all the blocks for the whole quilt for just this block that you see here. So these are the directions. They're free from the Fat Quarter Shop to tell you how much or how many blocks you'll need. The catch is they're not going to tell you the measurements because of course they want you to buy the pattern. So just make sure that if you want to get the pattern, you get the pattern. Hey, Miss Cynthia, how are you? Hello, everyone. Welcome in. So let me show you in the order that it should be in. So let's flip that. So they tell us to have 6 blocks of the Jolly Bar. And in order to get those 6 blocks, we're using at least 3. You could use more. It's totally up to you how scrappy you want them. But 3 of the Jolly Bar prints. And so these are the 3 that I went with. And I cut out those blocks so that I have 6 of them. You need 6 squares of your background fabric. And you need 4 for the corners. So this is all you need to create the block for today. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Dark Moon. Thank you for being the #1 gifter. So what we're going to do first is start off with making half square triangles. Now, one thing, I'm going to set these smaller C blocks aside because I don't need them. One of the things with using like a white on white fabric, and I don't know if you could see that, there are little dots that are on here. So this is white on white. So you do have to look at the fabric to see which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. And let me tell you, to know me is to know, I will absolutely mess this up. So I do have to look to see which side is which side. Hey, Miss Janine. Okay, so this is the wrong side. And I'm going to go from corner to corner and draw a straight line. And what this does is this helps us to make 2 half square triangles at a time. So we're going to take each one. Usually when you cut your fabric, you do cut the right sides together. So again, just check your fabric to make sure that you have it on the wrong side and that you're marking it on, and you're just drawing a line from corner to corner. And the great thing about this is this is how you make half square triangles really quickly. So I'm just using my ruler. I need a ruler that's just going to get me from corner to corner and draw a line. Okay, and then I didn't show you that, but let me show you what that looks like. Okay, and it could deceive you when you're looking at it, so you want to make sure that at least you can see the line. You might not see it as clear on your screens looking at mine, but as long as I can see from corner to corner. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I did too. Yep. Okay. So I think I did too. Yep. Okay. So I have all 6 marked. You could mark the colored ones if you prefer them, then to mark the white ones. Totally up to you, but you need to mark one of them. You don't need to mark both. So is this a good one? Yeah. So that's a good one. So we have it from corner to corner. And what we're just going to do now is take all of our Jolly Bar pieces with the backgrounds, and we're going to lay them pretty side. They like to call it pretty side to pretty side. They're going to go together. Some people call them wrong sides. Some people don't like calling them wrong sides. You can use pins to hold them in place. It's totally up to you. I like to live on the wild side, and so sometimes I don't do that. Thank you, Janine. Okay. I just like to make sure that everything is nice and try to get it as straight as possible. One of the things when we're making these half square triangles, most patterns, if they have you using this method, we are making the half square triangles. When we cut these, they're going to be a little bigger than our final measurement. And then we will do what's called squaring them down, squaring them up. We're just going to make sure that then they're the measurements that we want them to be. I do like to chain piece. I like to do the same thing over and over and over again, opposed to going through all the steps at once. So instead of making the half square triangles, cutting them one by one by one, I'm doing them all at one time just because I prefer to do it this way. If you don't prefer to do it this way, you can absolutely do this another way. I am pinning away from that line because when I stitch, I'm going to stitch on either side of the line and I don't want to run over the pins. You don't have to use pins, but it does help to keep your fabric from shifting when you are sewing over those lines. Hello, hello, hello everyone. We are working on the Jolly Bar Book 5 sampler, sponsored by the Fat Quarter Shop. We are using this book, and the block that we are working on is over here in this corner right here, and it is called the Hatchling. So we are making that star block. It's a great block. It's a common block, a good used block for quilts. You could blow this up to a higher, bigger size, and that could just be the quilt. So you can absolutely use a similar method, make those half square triangles, use those corner squares, and that could be like a 36 by 36, and that could be the quilt. It would be beautiful, it would be done, and it would be simple. Hello, Paper Seasoning, how are you? Okay. So what we are now going to do on either side of those lines, and I just want to make sure that you can see them, on either side of the line, you are going to stitch a 1/4 of an inch. And so you will use your 1/4 inch foot, or you could use the markings on your machine, whichever you prefer to do, but we want a 1/4 of an inch. Awesome. So I take it to my machine, and I'm using my 1/4 inch foot, and I just sew on either side. I'm going to go and get my second one, so I'm going to do all 6, just doing one side, a 1/4 inch. I was saying earlier, I got up this morning. One of my, we call them accountability partners, texted me last night. She was like, are we doing sprints in the morning? And against my better judgment, I said, yes, I will get up. And so I was up and out on that track at 5:15 this morning. I went to work. Had to go to Jersey to pick up some snacks for the kids for freshman orientation. So it has been a long day. So I am going to dive into the bed once I finish this block. So everything is chain stitched. Chain stitch just means that when I was stitching, I did not stop and cut. So they are all like chained together. And then what I'm going to do is just go down and do the same thing on the other side of the line. And I'm sewing a 1/4 inch. And my suggestion is that if you're a little wonky with your stitches, it is not bad to go a little less than a 1/4 inch rather than more than a 1/4 inch, because it's hard to get your fabric back. It's easier to trim your fabric down. Hey, Miss Stacy Teaches, how are you? I know that a lot of my sewing and quilting friends are getting ready for the school year. Some of you are already back in school. Woohoo! And others of you are painstakingly waiting for the beginning of the school year to start. Our kiddos are not back in until August the 26th, 25th, but administrators are back, lucky us, and teachers come back next Monday. Okay, so we'll pull this out. So if you could see that, you will see there's a stitch on this side, a 1/4 inch away from that line that I drew, and there is a stitch on this side. And let me turn it over because you can see it better on the darker side. And so you can see that stitch. You can't see the line, but it's there on either side. And again, if it's not perfect, it's closer to the line rather than further away from the line because I can square it up. So now I have all these pins. To know me is to know that pins are not my friends. I'm not a fan of pins. And I am just cutting those threads. I can use this, or I can use a pair of scissors. If I really could put my hands on my snips, I would, just to snip those apart. Okay, and we'll take the pins out. Great, I'm glad you can see it, because you know me squinting, I'm like, oh no, can I see that line? So thank you, Echoes, for letting me know that you could see it. Okay, and we're gonna take out all of those pins. I can really do a job with myself on pins, and I can't. Okay, so then I'm gonna take my ruler, put it back on that line, and then I am going to cut. So now I have the triangle, each color, and if I open it up, I have a square with a triangle on each side. And we'll press it in a second. But like we said, we like to just do that assembly line look. So we're going to go down and do the assembly line. Okay, so there are only 6 of them. So this moves quite rapidly. Now, if you like to live on the wild side, which sometimes I do, you don't have to use your ruler. You could just take your rotary cutter and just ride it right along that line that you drew. It'll work either way. The ruler helps your rotary cutter, the blade, to glide along that ruler so you don't accidentally slip and then cut into your seams and then possibly mess up your half square triangle. And it's not the end of the world, but it could be close when you don't have enough fabric. Thank you, Mel, for being the #1 gifter. Okay, so again, as we move to get my little iron hot here, you move that ruler out of the way. Here are all my half square triangles. We're going to press them open. We have, again, this is the Jolly Bar book. This is exclusive to Fat Quarter Shop. This is volume 5. And so this is the Jolly Bar 5 sampler quilt that we're making. As I stated, here in this corner for me It is my right hand. It's maybe your left hand. It is the, it's my left one that I'm looking at. It's the right. Okay, either way. Doesn't make a difference. You can see that big block. So that's the block that we're making. It's the hatchling. Each block in this book makes a quilt. If you make the number of blocks that are needed. So we're just making one of each of them, and the sheets give us the directions, and I will be posting those sheets so that you can see what we need for the next week that we do a block, so you know how many pieces to cut. I don't give the measurements because the expectation is that we buy patterns when they're for sale, not give away the measurements for somebody's hard work. So I'm using Denims and Daisies. This is a Jolly Bar. It is exclusive to Fat Quarter Shop. That's the front of it. So that was the pattern on the back. This is really cute. It's a combination of blues and different shades of blues and whites and oranges. And so it's absolutely adorable. And this is what we're using. A Jolly Bar is 5 inches by 10 inches. So it is like double a charm pack. It is half of a layer cake. Okay. So we have these pieces, and I can move my iron over here slightly. What we are going to do, and not have that long tail hanging out there because that'll irk me. What we are going to do is press these open. So I prefer to press to the dark side. You can press to the light side in some cases, and most people press to the dark side because we don't want the seam to shine through on the light side, but sometimes it's unavoidable. I would just say if you're going to press to the light side, be consistent. So don't press to the light side on some and not on others, and it'll show through and it'll look crazy on your quilt. So I press this way. However, if you prefer, you could open your seams up. Sometimes that reduces the bulk when you are putting pieces together. So again, totally up to you. You could open these up and then just give it a good press. And then, oops, okay. And sometimes that's why I don't like to press them open, because sometimes they don't like to go. And the iron likes to push them, like it's doing right there. But you can open your seams up. So it is totally up to you whether you want them open or whether you want them to one side. Again, I prefer to the one side just because that's the way that I've been taught, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, and you have to press them to the light side. It depends. It depends on the fabrics you're using. It depends on what's light, because if you have a white and a yellow, let's say a light yellow or pale pink, they're both light. So it's not going to matter. Something is going to show through. When we iron, we prefer, hi Hannah, thank you Hannah. Thank you for tapping the screen, everyone. We are at 1.3. Thank you so much. When we are pressing, we press. We do not iron. So pressing is just basically kind of like holding iron in place and just letting it set the seam. Ironing, you're trying to get those wrinkles out and you're moving your iron around the fabric. And what happens a lot of times is that you will kind of distort the fabric a little. If you may create some waves in it, you may cause it to be stretched out on one side of the square and not on the other, and it could mess up your measurements. So we prefer to press, not iron. We can also set the seams by, as you can tell, I did not open these up yet. So if I take my iron and I just set it on top of the seam, it will flatten out that thread. And the theory is that when you roll it over to press it open, it helps to press the seam a little flatter. Sometimes I think it works, sometimes I think it doesn't. But you could do it that way as well. I do not have them downstairs with me, but some people use clappers. It's like a piece of wood, if you will, sewing tool, and it helps to cool down your fabric after you press it, and it helps to set the seam. So you can absolutely use that if you like. Hey, Lavette, how are you doing, darling? So Mel, what happens is, depending on how you cut your fabric, and I did a video about this a while ago, but there are grains in your fabric. And so what happens is, on the straight of the grain, with cotton, there's the least amount of tug and pull. On the cross of the grain, you have a little bit more pull. And then on the bias, on the diagonal of the grain, there's a lot of stretch. So what happens is, especially with these triangles, this diagonal piece right here is on the bias. So it could cause a lot of stretch. So when I am pressing this, I'm just leaving the iron on top of the seam, and I'm helping to set that seam to lay it flat. But I'm not moving the iron around. If you never have a good piece of fabric. Okay, so if I take my fabric, let's say like this fat quarter, because I don't want to do it to one of the ones that I'm working on here, it'll throw me off. And I start ironing, because that's what we normally do to get wrinkles out. We iron. And this is after you're cutting, right? So, because if you iron it ahead of time, then you're cutting the things out, it's distorted, but then you're straightening it out. With this, you're starting to kind of push your fabric to the point where you may stretch it out of shape. And it's not going to be like really wonky, but it could be. And so then what happens is, you've already made this square, and sometimes the square gets a little wonky. And so before, where it was a 3 by 3, now it's a 3 1/4 or a 3 1/8 by a 3 down the bottom. And you're like, how did it get a little wonky like that? That's because you were pressing your fabric and you're kind of stretching it out as you go. And we don't want not press. We're ironing your fabric, so you're pulling it out rather than pressing it and just helping that seam to lay flat. So if you're going to iron, typically what people do is they wash their fabric. They iron the wrinkles out, because it's hard to press them out, because you can't let the iron sit in one place. You'd be there all day. So you would iron it out. You might use a little spray starch, get that nice and tight and straight, and then you make your cuts. And then you sew everything together. So you want to iron usually at the beginning of a project, and usually you iron at the end of a project. If you are going to iron, then you just need to be careful, because sometimes you can't avoid it. So you just want to be careful when you do it. So we just tend to press. So then that way we're not distorting, especially where that bias is the stretchiest. Now I use, not a problem, I use this iron and you see steam coming out. Traditionally, I will not use steam with my iron. I'm lazy, so I didn't take the water out of it, because I also use this to create clothing. And I do use my steam when I'm doing clothing. Water will also cause your fabric to stretch if you iron it, or shrink when you're using heat. So you do need to be careful with that. And if you wash your fabric ahead of time, or you do some starching, you won't run into too much of a problem. But most times I do not use water in my iron. So you'll see it in there. I won't put any more in there, but I just have it in there right now because, again, first of all, water is expensive. So it's gonna stay in there. So I'm not gonna throw the water away, but I'm just being very careful with my blocks. So you do see the steam. Actually, I could probably just turn the steam off because that would make sense. And then at least it wouldn't have the steam on there. So we have 3 more to go that we're gonna press. And again, I'm pressing to the dark side. So all of my seams are going to the dark side. Sometimes you can't avoid the movement of the iron. So, Jen, it looks like you're still ironing. I'm not ironing, but sometimes I have to roll over that seam. So you will see just a little bit of a push, but you don't see a major push. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I want them to lay flat, and then I could give it a really good ironing once everything is finished. Okay, we got one more. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone, for 2.1K. Okay, and this is a relatively easy block. And I just say relatively because depending on where you are in your quilting process, you might be like, girl, this is not easy. Blocks are easy, and you could absolutely be right. But I think it's a relatively easy block. It's a great block to start with. Ask me, where is my square ruler? But that's okay. So the next thing that we're going to do, now that we have these blocks, and let me show you the term, there is a little corner right here. If you can see that, let me move my arm the right direction. You see that little corner, that's a little edge. I do want to cut that off. And if I turn this sideways, you can see there's one on both sides, and they like to call those dog ears. So we do want to cut those off, but we also want to make sure that our square has the measurement that we need. So we're going to use our ruler, and I'm still learning how to use this one. I don't want to use that one because I want to be able to see this. So I want to work this one because I have a gazillion rulers. So what I'm going to do is line my ruler up with the block, and I want to get the measurements that are in the book for this square, and I'm going to cut off the excess. I want to make sure that I get the corner of that block to be right there at the corner of my ruler so that I have a perfect corner. If it's a little off, it's going to throw off the points of that block. And if I had my other ruler, my square ruler, I would be able to see this a lot better, but that's okay because I could still work it. Tyler, I'm not sure what you mean by a Rachel's Challenge shirt. Okay. And then you can see the perfect block. Wanted to make sure my measurements are right, so I use my mat. And then let's do the other two so we can show you what one of the blocks will look like. And again, typically what I would do is do all of them, but in the interest of some people's time, I do want to make sure that's not perfectly straight. There's a little bit of a gap. I do want to show you what one block would look like, just so that you can see that. Because all 4 blocks are going to look the same way. And I don't know why. Sometimes there's a little bit of a fold, if you could see that. And it's not coming out. That's what spray starch is for. So I will get a little bit of my spray starch here. And I'm just going to give it a little puff. And it's going to help me to lay that down. Because that was just not laying for me. And I think my ironing board is a little warped in the center. So I think that's what's causing the problem for that. Okay, that's much better. Okay, so again, taking the measurements that were given in the pattern, it should be close because we don't want to waste a lot of fabric to square these up. So it's just a little bit of scrap, and in the process, those dog ears are getting cut off. We're lining everything up. Okay, so that's 2, and then let's do the 3rd one. Well, my other ruler, I can absolutely use the diagonal from that ruler to line it up right with this half square triangle so that I make sure that corner's in the center so that I have those perfect centers. With this, I just have to pay a little bit more attention, and that's why I'm taking my time. I don't rush on this part. Okay. And we're just gonna lay it down. If it's a little off, it's not gonna matter much. You don't want it a lot off. So we have, and again, this is white on white, so I do have to look to make sure that I have the right side. Now, because sometimes I don't pay attention, I do look at my directions to make sure that I have my layout right. Okay, good. So each block is going to look like this. Totally up to you. If it's scrappy, it's going to be all over the place. If you've only used 3 colors like I did, then I want to make sure that my blues are always up here, oranges are here, darks are always in the center, or whatever arrangement I'm going to go with. So I do want to make sure they're in the right place, just so that I don't have colors touching. And you can see this if you look up here. You can see right where they labeled C. This is C. And then you can kind of see it going all the way around. So you can see how these 2 parts here are the same way in that picture, and how this is like that dark green part, and then the white is headed to the center. So now what we are going to do is fold these over onto each other, and we're going to sew these 2 units together. And we're going to do the same thing for the rest of them, but we're just going to put one unit together right now. And again, this is just in case there's somebody that's like, girl, I was going to follow along. It is 9 o'clock and I got to get up in the morning. So, you know, I just need to see how the one block comes together and then I can do the rest. And I'm like, I got you. Okay. So we are going to open these up, right? Because the good thing is if we check it before we do everything else, we're usually guaranteed not to mess it up. So I'm opening it back up. It's still in the form that it should be in, so I did it right, because sometimes I'm not paying attention and I mess the order up. So I have this right. I chained it so it's already together. So now I can lay it on top of itself. And I'll do that again. So it looks like this. And the first time we took the 2 pieces here and flipped them over top onto these pieces. Now these pieces are together. We're going to flip them onto the bottom pieces. You can iron them if you like. I am going to line these up so that the centers are lined up. And this is where the light is going to go. The darkest, the seam is going to go to the light side. So like I said, sometimes you cannot avoid it, but it's going to look the same for every block, so I'm not worried about it. I'm going to use clips this time to hold everything in place, because I do want those centers to line up nice and neatly, and I want my edges to line up nice and neatly. Is it Dorian? How are you, Dorian? If I'm reading that right. I'm looking at a white mat in white words. Okay. So everything's together. I made sure that the centers are lined up. The seams themselves are lined up. And then I'm going to do my 1/4 inch. Great thing about clips is you can never run over them like you accidentally do with pins. And the whole goal is not to run over your pins, even though for years I ran over mine. But I stopped doing that because I heard horror stories and I was like, yup, we're not doing that. I am doing lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, so if everything lined up the way that it was supposed to, when you look in the center, it should line up. Is it a little off to the left or the right? Yup. Is it going to matter to me? Nope. Because it's not too far off, but if it bothers me, I can seam rip it out and do it again. Okay, but like I said, it's not too far off, so I'm not worried about it. So now that I did this, I have my seams are going in a circle. So this seam is pushing this way, this seam is pushing up, this seam is pushing to the right, this seam is pushing down. And I'm going to take it to my machine, to my iron, and I'm going to press them in that same direction. Absolutely. If it's close enough, you're not going to see it, you're not going to remember it, and no one else is going to see it. If it's far off, it will irk your soul. And if it irks your soul, take it out. So there are times when it will irk my soul, and I have to take it out because it's that far off. And other people will say, girl, it wasn't that bad, but it's your project. And so if it's your project, you have to decide what those negotiables are and those non-negotiables are. And if it is negotiable, you can live without it. If it's non-negotiable, you take it out. But absolutely, as Doreen said, 9 times out of 10, when you quilt it, nobody's going to see that. And if you got so much going on, like all these prints and things like that, nobody's going to see it anyway. Okay. So we're going to press that all down. Okay. And I may have to play just with the center a little bit and just kind of pop those seams open just a little bit. Just to kind of get them to whirl just a little bit, just to help it lay flat. Okay. And if everything is going in the direction it's supposed to go into, your back looks kind of cute too. Okay. And the front looks like this. And we'll do it in this direction. So you can see how this lines up with those corners. So this lines up with the upper, this is my left. So it lines up with the upper left-hand corner right now. If I turn it this way, it's the upper now right-hand corner. So it's the same block in each way. And this is always the center. So we just need to do the rest of them and to get those done. So we'll get those finished and then we'll be able to put this whole thing together. Thank you. And again, because I put things down and then I don't pay attention to where I put them down. This is Denim and Daisies, and it is by Fat Quarter Shop. And this is a Jolly Bar. And really, this is just a sample of fabric from the collection Denim and Daisies. It's by Fig Tree and Company. And so these are all of the prints, and you can buy some of the prints, you can buy all of the prints. But this is a great way to see all of the prints in a collection and then to use them. Jolly Bars are exclusive to Fat Quarter Shop. So you can get the Jolly Bars from the Fat Quarter Shop. Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to square these up and we're going to get these done. Because again, you know, I'll be sitting in a PD tomorrow like crying. And I think Thursday night will be the first night that I can possibly go to sleep at a decent hour. And then, even then, one of them people might call me and say, do you want to run on Friday? Okay, and we're just turning this and we're squaring it up to the size that is required in the pattern. And sorry, but not sorry, I cannot share that size with you for the squaring up because it is part of the pattern. I don't like to infringe upon copyright. And I also think that for the 10 little cookies that it costs $11, it, you know, is a fair enough price that it's not a problem to purchase the pattern. And you do get quite a few possible quilts and blocks from it by purchasing the pattern. Okay, Okay, with the name, I took someone's username. Okay. I tell you, people are so creative with some of the names that they come up with. But hello, hello, hello. We are in week 1 of the Jolly Bar Volume 5 sampler that is sponsored by the Fat Quarter Shop. This is going to run through December, and I did not come up with the schedule, so please don't come for me. So this will take us till December, and I am, yes, going to be on pins and needles trying to get this together and not go ahead of schedule, because, you know, I could, like, I'm impatient. It's like, you want me to wait till December to put this whole thing together? Okay. And again, I'm just working, I square 2 sides up. I turn those to the inside of the ruler, and then I square the other 2 sides up. There should be just a little bit of wiggle room when I'm doing this, because typically when we make the half square triangles this way, you give yourself a little extra so that you do have room to trim them up. Or to trim them. Trim them, square them up. People use different words. It all means the same thing. So if it's a little raggedy on those corners, on those edges, you're getting a chance to smooth them out. You're getting rid of that dog ear, and you're making sure that everything is the proper size. If everything is the size that it is supposed to be, you have a better chance of your quilt coming out square and not having a bunch of waves. So it's always good to go through the process to do this, even though sometimes we don't want to. And you want to talk about somebody that doesn't want to do it, it's me. Like Alphabet would say, it's me. And I'm not going to sing that part, but you get the point. I dread this part, because I don't want to do this. I just want to sew the blocks together. And I can't just sew the blocks together because I have quilts where it was a little wonky. And I could make the wonky work, but when your seams don't line up and other stuff goes on, it's frustrating. And so it's easier to take the time to do it the right way than it is to have wonkiness in your quilt. And then you're trying to figure out how to seam it straight and cut it straight, and now something else doesn't look right, and you know, you're getting a little bit more frustrated until the point you get to what my girlfriend would say is bump it. That's the word she would use for that other word. And she was like, it's just gonna stay like that. Yep. Because the reality is unless you give the quilt to a perfectionist, they're not even gonna know. Okay. I do have 2 pieces that are fighting me. So I do just want to give them a little bit of a little knock. And again, I do keep my spray starch. This is Best Press. I do keep that by my machine because I do find myself needing it. Okay. And the good thing is, that once these 2 are done, all of the small half square triangles have been squared up. And I just want to make sure everything is good and that my corners are cornering. And you can kind of hear me cutting just a little bit, but like this is as much as I'm cutting off of that. Some half square triangles you'll be cutting off a little bit more. The least amount of fabric you're cutting, the better, because then we're not wasting fabric. Yeah, it's one of the reasons, and I love the denim and daisies, like orange and greens. Like, I was like, yeah. You know, what color do I want? I want the denim and daisies. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you for 5.5K. Thank you so much for tapping the screen. Somebody was calling it spirit fingers one morning. I was like, okay. Okay, let me slide that out of the way. Make sure I close my rotary cutter up because, yeah, that casualty we don't want to see. And what I can do, if my eyes don't play tricks on me, is take that block and I can lay it out. Now ask me why. Okay, I see it. 2, and I'm missing 1. Was this already? This was not squared up, so I need to square this one up. Okay, so what I'm doing is putting those blocks into the order that they're supposed to be in. So that when I chain stitch these, I can move them a little bit faster along because they're already in the order that I want them to go into. Okay. Now, okay. So here is the completed block, and then here are the other ones. What I will also point out is you will see that, and I haven't squared up this yet, but you'll also see that there is some extra white background in here. You don't want to end up with it like this because it will then, when you do the seam, your points will go into your seams and you'll end up with these flat point, edges. Will it be the end of the world? No, but you want this extraness out here. So if you have that all the way around, you are on to a good start. Okay. So again, this is the layout. We want this to go over to this. Oh, my leg. Get my puzzle piece. Which is when I have to stretch across the screen. Doesn't always work the first time. Okay, so blue onto white, light blue onto white, dark blue onto orange. And I can do all this first, I can do these second, or I can do them piece by piece by piece. Totally up to you which way you want them to go. But either way, I have 3 sets of each that need to get accomplished. Okay, one thing that I do like to do is keep them in order so that if I don't move them, they should still remain in order when I take them to the machine. So I'm putting them in the same exact order, lifting them up the way that I need to lift them up, and then taking them to the machine to stitch them in that same direction. And the great thing is, like, you're almost done, right? So this is row 2, or this is block 2. Oops. Okay. And we're just setting those up together. And then the third one and last. And again, if you were taking the hatchling block and you were making an entire quilt with it, depending on how you laid out everything, you could work this section by section and do this the same way. So it does make a great quilt. Just using just this block. So sometimes half square triangles are intimidating. They're really not. And where most people will mess up is not squaring it up. Lives under a bridge. How are you doing today? Okay. Remember, I said if I lay them in the right order, I should, keyword should, be able to open them up and still have them in that order. Okay. Which just saves me some aggravation when it comes time to put these together. And again, I could press them, but I do want to make sure that these two seams are going to line up. I do want them to go in opposite directions. So I did in the last one press my light blue to the white. So I could take that back and press that. And I pressed my orange to the dark blue. I folded these over because they were chain stitched together. So that's that little thing here that's holding them together. And of course they folded back up again on me. Didn't want that to happen. And I'm going to line up those center seams. So this is where I, make sure I'm paying attention. Get them right where I need them to go. We like to call that nesting, and I do use my fingers to kind of massage it into place. And I can clip it. Then I line up my edges, take it back to the machine, and do a 1/4 inch. It's that center seam that I want to make sure, because that's where I want everything to line up at. Everything is together. The edges on the outside are together. I'm trying to make sure that my foot doesn't get caught on my fabric and force it back towards me. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. Line up those two seams. Press the light blue towards the white, the orange towards the dark blue. Try to get those to nest in together. Because if the seams are going in the opposite direction, then those center lines should just line up just as nicely and neatly. Lives under the bridge, I am doing wonderful. I'm a little beat because somebody has been up since about 4:45 this morning. I went past my cousin's house and I was closing my eyes. I'm in Jersey. I'm like, girl, you gotta make it back across that bridge. And you still had to go to the market. But I made it. And then I was like, and then you said you were going on live. So you need to act like you know. But I'm a beast, so I can do it. Okay. Now I think I had one more, which is this one that I didn't do yet. So here we go again. Here's the finished one. And you can see I took a little bit more care and concern this time. So that corner, all those meet up just as nicely. So I can press those open. I'm a little bit happier with that. But again, I'm not ripping that out because we've already said nobody's gonna see that. You know, because I am. I'm like either that or crazy. And either one could work. But I've already figured out I can't do it on Thursday, but I can probably get up and run on Friday. So I may be running Friday morning. And that's, of course, after I made a stop to get something to eat today that I shouldn't have stopped to get something to eat. But, you know, it is what it is. I'll do better the rest of this week. Okay, this is the last one. We'll make sure everything is lined up again. Who runs the world? Girls. That's right. Okay. So we got this, we got that, we got that. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So there are only 4 pieces to this quilt block, which is great. We can open that one up. 2 out of 3. 3 out of 4, I should say. Okay. So we're gonna take this back to the machine. Let my iron get hot. And then we will press these open. And then we're going to square them up and then put them together and the quilt block will be done. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that daily heart me. Okay. From time to time, I'm like, you know what? Did you keep up with that comment? Nope. Make sure I keep up with those comments. Okay, I pressed that in the wrong direction, but that's okay. Because I'll get it when I come back around. Okay. And we're just pressing those seams down. Really, I could just leave that one in that direction and call it afternoon. I could do the same thing on the other side. Okay. So again, it looks like this on the back. It looks like this on the front. Was that your, I know there was a live when I was coming on. I was getting ready to get on and I was in the kitchen and somebody was lagging. Was that you? And I was like, they were repeating the same word, like it was like happening over and over and over again. Oh, okay. So when I was like, I said, who is that? And I thought it was my phone until somebody said you were lagging. And I know you stayed on a little while longer. And I was just like, I said, wow. Because I've never heard that before. And it was just like, wow, okay. Okay. So we're just pressing. And again, you're not mushing, you're not ironing, you're just pressing. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't awful. It was just, it was funny because it was like, what is that? Okay. Oh, that's 3 and 1 more. And I don't need to move that iron a lot. Now, this is a Oliso iron. And as I have stated to people before, there's a little thing in the back, and you can push it on or off. So if it's on, the feet will engage when I let go of it. Sometimes I prefer for that not to happen because sometimes that can get on my nerves. So the reason why you don't hear it is just because I do turn that off from time to time. Okay, let me cut that thread off. Okay. Let me slide that over for a second. Let me slide that over. And I need each box to be in a corner. And the dark to be in the center. And which way am I going? This way. So there is a little bit of squaring up that I do want to do, but this is what my final block will look like. Now somewhere in here, I have the big kahuna. Thank you. And so I do want to double check because sometimes when you're not paying attention, you do get things wrong. And if I'm doing a live, I do like to make sure that I have the blocks right. Okay. So they do suggest that you square the block up. So this is the square this time. So if I square the block up, I'm measuring according to the measurements that they gave me. So if things are a little off, this is the opportunity that I have to straighten them out just a little bit. It's not too far wrong. There's a little bit of hangover here. And I think I'm good here, but I see some threads. Okay. So that's one done. So once I square these up, all we need to do is put these together. If this were really off, I would use center measurements to line up. I do use that to see that everything is lined up the way that it needs to be. So I am using those marks to help me look at the block itself, just to make sure that if anything is off, at least my lines are straight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the hearts. Thank you. Let's see. Yeah, I took a little bit of a hiatus. I was posting videos And now the new fat quarter shop sew along is up, so I do have to come on once a week. I did post it, and I will be posting closer to those days right before to show you the blocks and things that we will be doing, so that I can fulfill my obligation of making sure I do the blocks and the sew alongs for the fat quarter shop. I did do some pattern testing. That's just a little different to do because you don't want to share like the whole pattern. It hasn't really been released yet. I would do on a sewing retreat, so I was kind of busy. But I'm back. But thank you. I appreciate you. And you're going to bed right now. Have a good one. The video will be posted on YouTube, so make sure that you are following me there if you want to see the video. If you're choosing to follow along in the sew along, all of them will be posted so that you can see the tips and tricks and anything that you may need to go back to for the sew along. Okay, I'm gonna come do that last side. But good night to you. Yes, I had a ball. And then, of course, if you've been following my lives, and of course I have content to do, I mean, not my lives, my videos, and I still have content that I need to do on that. I've been doing the shop hops again this year, and so I do need to post that content. Okay. Put this one down. So all these are done. All squared up, ready to go. Red to go. Okay. And again, because we know how these go according to the layout, I'm going to lay these back out again so that they're laid out correctly. And all we need to do is follow the same method that we did when we made the block. So we're going to fold these over onto themselves and then stitch those two together, those two columns, and then we'll stitch the 2 rows together and we'll be done the block. Okay. We do have a seam that lines up. Now, it would be nice if one went in one direction and the other went in the other direction. So I am going to press one. I'm going to press this in this direction the minute I get a chance. So I am going to get these 2 clipped. I do want to make sure that I did that right, because let me tell you how many times I have to seam rip something because I'm not paying attention. And then we are going to line those edges up. I did give it a little bit of a back tack. Make sure everything goes under correctly. Give it a little bit of a back tack. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it looks difficult, but it's really not. And it is like one of the things that I do like about the sew along is that we're taking our time. You work on like 50 billion other projects. You do not have to, you know, work on this one every week. But, you know, if you're like me, you like to work on stuff and get it out the way. And then there are other times when projects sit. Okay, these 2 are going to go together. Okay, and they nested right. I don't know what I did to them other ones that didn't nest right, but these 2 did. Okay, and then we'll line those up. Okay. Now this one they touched. And then this one they didn't. So I think I didn't go far enough, but that's okay. Because again, I am not going to sweat that because it's not that bad. But if I did, I would soon rip it out. Okay, so I'm gonna press this just because there were some issues with one of the seams that I had. So I do want to press this just so that that lays flat and I don't forget to do it later. I am going to press these seams open. Just so that I can get in there. And one of the reasons why I hate that I don't like pressing seams open, because it takes me a minute to get in there. And I might get in there a little bit better. Okay, good, got it. Okay, so I did press this center seam open. And one of the reasons why I like to do that is because when it shows through, it'll show through on this side and this side evenly. So I do want that. And it'll be the same way up top and down bottom. And then I'll do the same thing on this one. And then I can put these two rows together. My school year did start already, trip metal detector. It did start for administrators. So it has not started for teachers yet. That is next week. And it will start for the little cherubs the following week. But administrators have been back since last week. We had our professional development for a week. And we will be turning around that professional development to our staff. So we've been getting that together this week. And then the kiddos will be back. Okay, good job, you're pressing that. So it depends on what you mean by trimming. Sometimes, like if you check your measurements and you're not too far off, you can kind of get away with it. But sometimes if it's not straight and it's not the way it's supposed to be, it may throw some things off if you don't do it. But again, it depends. Now, I ain't mad at you because I'm going to tell you there are some quilts that I don't touch with a 10-foot pole until I finish them. So I'm not telling you have to. Hey, Miss Ordevan. Hey, Miss Tony. So it just depends. And like I said, it depends on the block. Like there are times where you absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, need to do it. I am taking the two center ones and I am pinning or clipping those together first. Those were the two that I pressed open. Then I am taking the next two seams. I'm gonna line those up. And I will clip those together. Look, can you come bring me some snacks? I just got finished buying snacks for freshman orientation on Thursday. I was like, I didn't spend a lot of money. I was impressed. I was like, I can get some more snacks. And we bought the nibs of water so they wouldn't waste it. And they were only like $6 I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Okay, everything is clipped together. Let's take it to our machine and do that final stitch. Because this block will see a little bit more torture, I do a back stitch on it. Make sure everything is nice and flat. It's fine. I'm just saying. You know, Costco is my friend. And Costco and BJ's. If I could figure out how to, Hers Potato Chip and Lay's and Snyder's are all here in Pennsylvania, but they're not close. I could figure out how to get all of them to drop snacks off to me, I would. Okay. The points are pointing, they connect. They connect. And that center looks good. So with the exception of pressing this, the block is done. Oh, that is so sweet. Look, I'm getting ready to flirt with one of those delivery drivers. I'm like, look, I know y'all can hook a sister up. Not like the kids need to eat those snacks, but you know, you try to incentivize them with a treat. Okay, so there's a lot of bulk coming to those centers. So we do want to make sure, and that's what, you know, kind of helps to kind of pound those down. And that's why sometimes it's better to open those seams up, just to kind of relieve some of the bulk from that one side. But again, this is the first week of the Jolly Bar Sampler, Book 5, Quilt Along. And we have started off with the hatchling block. They may call it the hatchling quilt because in the book, they are showing you how to take this one block and make a whole quilt out of it. But we're not making the quilts out the block. We're not making the complete quilt out of one block. We are using all the blocks from several different quilts, and we are making a sampler, which means that we are trying out all of those blocks and making them out of a certain line of fabric so that they all connect through the design and palette of the Jolly Bar. You could use scraps. It could be very scrappy if that's what you prefer. So it gives us a chance to use those, to learn those different blocks. And there we go. So what I would do is take it and then just kind of give it like a good spray, starch spray, so that it, you know, lays nice and flat. And then I would get back with those little corners there, just so that they're, I mean, the, you know, so that they're straight. I do want to check one thing. Yep. Okay. So the last thing that we would do is measure this on the table, and we would square it up to be the exact measurement. I could use my ruler if my ruler were big enough. This one is not. So I would need a bigger ruler to square this up if I used a square ruler, or I could use the lines on my cutting mat and I would just line this up. and then I would cut off the excess. So right now, I have been using Best Press. Somewhere that I don't see it, and I don't know why I don't see it. Oh, I do see it. I am trying also out Flatter. So I am trying these two and determining which one I like the best. So right now, to be quite honest with you, Best Press is what I go for most often. However, the Flatter smells wonderful. So I'm not gonna hold you for this one. This smells wonderful. And so far when I did the dinosaur quilt, I did feel like those seams laid a little flatter. So I'm going to continue to practice with this and see which one I like, but I do like the Best Press. It smells off. Wow. So far I'm like, it smells off. Wow. So far I'm like, I love the smell of it. So I don't know if it is this celebration. I don't know if it's just this one, but I love it so far. But I still kind of grab my go-to. So I probably need to use all this up, and then it'll force me to use Flatter to really tell the difference. But, you know, so far that's the one I've been using. And I have been taking the advice of folks where they said, water this down, because you don't need as much of the Best Press on it. And so adding water and diluting it absolutely helps. So I do that as well. Pineapple is the best, but I'm extremely allergic to pineapple. Oh. I love pineapples. So here is, again, the block. So this is the hatchling. This is the first block. This is 1 of 1 for this one. So the hatchling is done. I will post a video for the second block, which is going to be called the Holly Berry. So if the Holly Berry is next, and here it is right here. So this is the Holly Berry, and we will be making 4 of these. So I will be, of course, making 1 on live. So I will do 1 complete one on live. I will probably do a video beforehand. I don't know, but I'll probably do the other 3 like sometime between now and then the 27th, because this block is due the 27th. So that, because there's no way I'm going to have all 4 of those done on a Tuesday night. So I'll probably have done 3 of them in advance. I'll do 1 from beginning to end on the 26th. Because that's when I will go live to show this one. So this is the next one. So stay tuned on the channel. Make sure you're following me if you're not. I will give you the dimensions, not the dimensions, but how many pieces you'll need to cut out for each of these. You could see that there are 4 colors here, and then the background fabric. So we will need 4 different colors for this. So we will need the 4 colors for it. I will give you the dimensions, so we will release that for you. And then I will be back at 9 o'clock on the 26th to put this together. And then I will post the video on the 27th. I will post the picture on the 27th. So I will follow the schedule of the Fat Quarter Shop in terms of things that have to be posted. Okay. And let me see. Hey, Miss Jacina, how are you? 50/50 Best Press. Okay, 50/50 Best Press in the water. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Miss Ordovin, for the light up TikTok. Thank you, darling. I appreciate you for filling that gift gallery. So again, thank you everyone for 12.8K likes. Thank you so much for joining me today for the first week of the Jolly Bar quilt along. So we have block number 1 made. This is the hatchling block. Again, just as a reminder, if you are interested in getting the Jolly Bar book, this is volume 5. The link is in my bio, so you can use that to go right to the Fat Quarter Shop to get this. It's about, minus tax, it's about 11 cookies, to get this. So you can get this particular book. Again, when you see the patterns, I can show you this one. Like, for example, they will show you the whole quilt. Matter of fact, let me show you the hatchling one, right? So just so you could see what the whole thing would look like without showing you the dimensions. Okay, so if you were doing the hatchling quilt, this is what it could look like. And so you would make all the blocks, and they will absolutely have you see how you could make the quilt. But we are not making the quilt, we are only making a block. And some of them are different sizes, but this is the one that we started with. I am using the Jolly Bar Denim and Daisies. This is by Fig Tree and Company. I was getting ready to say Fig and Tree. Fig Tree and Company, and it is a combination of blues, whites, and oranges. I love it. Again, this is also in the Fat Quarter Shop. This is exclusive to them. Jolly Bars are exclusive to them. They are 5 inches by 10 inches, which is half of a layer cake or double the charm pack. Okay, so a charm pack is 5 inches square. A Jolly Bar is rectangular. Why do I not have a piece of one? Okay, because you had the whole Jolly Bar back, right? So a Jolly Bar is rectangular. It's like half of a square. So it's just in the shape of a rectangle. And so it'll either come flat, it comes with a free pattern, but it just more or less looks like this. So it's just half of a layer cake, or it is double a charm pack. So that's a charm pack, and then put 2 charm squares next to each other and you get a Jolly Bar. So again, you don't have to buy the Jolly Bar. You can absolutely get the pattern. You can use up your scrap. You could buy yardage. It's totally up to you how you want this to play out. You are not bound to the Jolly Bar. We are just using Jolly Bars for this. So you absolutely could cut a layer cake in half. You absolutely could. So if you have a layer cake laying in the house, and you need 2 Jolly Bars, right? So if you have 1 layer cake, if you cut the layer cakes in half, you would have 2 Jolly Bars. So you would have enough fabric to do exactly what we are doing with this. So you could absolutely use what's in your stash. That's totally up to you. Okay, so again, thank you everyone. Thank you for joining me. You know where I am headed because those sprints took me out this morning. And I have to go sit in the PD for 4 hours. So somebody needs to pretend like she wants to get some sleep so that she can get up in the morning and function. So again, thank you. I will be working on the video for this. So I will post that to YouTube. So it will be on YouTube. If you need to see the replay of it, all the videos will be on there. Please make sure you are following me on YouTube. And I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next block for the Jolly Bar quilt along. But you know me, I got plenty of quilts, so you'll see me again on live. So until then, thank you everyone.